In this video, we're going to show you how to install the windshield washer reservoir in your Ford Explorer, located behind the passenger side wheel well. Using a 19mm socket, loosen and remove your lug nuts. Once you have the lug nuts removed, you want to grab that wheel and remove it. Set it aside. On the bottom side, you're going to locate three 8mm bolts. Got to loosen and remove those. There's 4 bolts right here, 1, 2, 3, 4 on the leading edge of your splash guard. These 2 go into the fender trim, but it also goes in to the back side. These are 7/32. Loosen and remove those. Now right here, we'll go ahead and separate this. Now normally, there will be another bolt right here. You want to go ahead and loosen and remove that. Ours is missing. And on the inside of the fender liner, you're going to find a series of these trim buttons here. It's a Phillips head in the center. They will come out as you unthread it, and then you can take out the button around the perimeter. Go ahead and pop that out. And you're going to do this process for the rest of these buttons. Now there should be another one just to the left of it here. This one here is missing and remove that fender liner and set it aside. Now I want to go ahead and remove the nuts off of these studs here. You can see on ours it's a little rusty. We're going to use some rust penetrant on these here. On any ones that you have access to get your spray can in there, let that soak for a little bit, and then we'll come on in and remove those. Now I'm using a mirror here to show you where the other bolt is. There's going to be 3 of them. You can see the 2 on the front side visibly, but I'm using the mirror to show you. There's one on the other side here you want to go ahead and pay attention to as well. We're going to go ahead and remove all 3 of these. At this point here, let's go ahead and disconnect our electrical connector from the motor. There's a little pinch tab right here. Pinch that and just wiggle that connector off. Now we're going to go ahead and separate these 2 connectors. Now there is fluid in here, and we have a catch can underneath to catch that fluid. I'm going to use a pair of hose pliers here. Just grab that, gently twist that, and pull this off. Now the motor is held in with a rubber grommet. I'm just going to use a trim tool, pop on back here, and we're just going to wiggle that out of the rubber grommet. Using an 11mm socket, go ahead and loosen the nut here on the stud. Go ahead and get our upper bolt here. Now on our particular vehicle, the nut furthest towards the front of the bumper, the one that you can't see while you're removing it, is actually an 8mm, while the other two were 11s. So let's go ahead, loosen and remove this one. Now on our replacement unit, we have our pump unit right here. This is for the windshield. On the other side here, this is for the level sensor itself. So there is an electrical connector here. It's hard to see it on the unit before we remove it from the vehicle. But before we pluck this out of the vehicle, we're gonna disconnect this electrical connector. It's the same style, you're just gonna push it in a little tab and pinch it and pull it off. Let's go ahead and do that. All right. With that disconnected, we're going to grab our tank here. I want to wiggle this free. On the back side, we have a retainer for a wiring harness. We're going to use our trim tool. And unfortunately, you kind of have to do this blindly. Unless you're up underneath the vehicle, you might be able to get to that a little bit easier. Here we go. All right, we'll just pull that out. Drop this down and kind of give it a little twist. Now we'll go ahead and feed the filler port here. It needs to go up. And we have to kind of twist this a little bit. It's going to go in past a wiring harness that's up here, up into the engine bay. And as it goes up and in, we're simply going to twist it and push it as it goes up. And there you have it. Now at this point here, probably go up top, take a look and make sure that filler neck is where it needs to be. In general, if you can get those studs to line up, you're in the perfect spot. It shouldn't be binding up anywhere. But if it seems like it's getting stuck somewhere, go ahead and take a look up top. I'm just gonna put a little bit of anti-seize on these studs here because these are exposed to the elements. And for any reason, if anyone needs to come back in here again later on, should be able to get these pieces of hardware off without any issues. We're going to get these two nuts started and then we'll get the bolt started around the front side. Now I'm going to tighten down the bolt on the front here. Now when tightening these down, we're just securing plastic. It doesn't have to be super tight. Once that nut bottoms out, you just want to go a little bit more, just make sure it's snug. Now I want to go ahead and install the little plastic button retainer onto the ear. Once again, this is something that you're going to be doing just by feel. There it is. Next, we'll install the electrical connector for the level sensor. Now push it on, you're going to feel it clip into place. Then we'll go ahead and install our pump harness here. Push it down, you're going to feel that little tab snap into place. Install the hoses, line those up and push those on. Now, as you can see, we have quite a bit of hose here, and you don't want to risk this leaking. Now, we pull this off and we use pliers to take it off, but when we put it back on, it's pretty sloppy, which may introduce a leak. Just cut off about 1 inch, take it back to that fresh piece of hose, and go ahead and work that into place. Twist it on. You should notice it's a lot tighter. Do the same for that back one there. This is going to prevent a headache later on down the road of, where did my fluid go? And you found out that the new part you put in is perfect, but the hoses were leaking. So, preventative maintenance tip right there. Let's go ahead and line up our fender liner. I'm going to start by tucking this into the back side here first. Work this up and around, and take a little bit of manipulating to get this pushed in and around. Once you start to get things lined up, you're going to see the holes here lining up with the fender liner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab one of my trim buttons here, pop that in, and I'm going to secure a couple of these back ones here. It's going to hold it in place while I go ahead and install the rest of these. I'm going to install one to the left. You can see that's not lining up quite yet, so we're missing something here lining up. And we can see why our fender liner wasn't lining up. There's all kinds of debris inside here. Now, your vehicle may not be like this here, but if it's driven on the road, chances are you're going to experience that. Now we should be able to go ahead and maneuver this and get this to drop down inside. Here we have it. Now, when you install your fender liner here, you want to make sure the back side is behind this, but in front of the metal fender flange there. So you want to make sure that that is between there. Otherwise, when you push on this, it's just going to push back and you won't be able to secure your plastic push pin in there. So basically, you want to sandwich that. And then we'll get our third one installed up top here. There we go. We have our upper fender lip here. Now we have one forward of that. And on the top here, if you have your last bolt to put in there, install that. Then we can fold our fender trim down, and we have our 4 screws to install. I'm just going to get that started, not going to secure it till I get the other 3 installed. With all 4 of them started, go ahead and tuck that fender liner in and snug them down. Once they snug down, stop. Do not over tighten them. Now we're going to install our 3 bolts on the bottom here. Okay. Now let's go ahead and snug these down. Now once these snug down, that's it. Do not over tighten. Once they bottom out, you're pretty much good. And do this for all 3. Go ahead and install your wheel. Install the lug nuts. We want to get all 5 of these started by hand first. Once we have them all started, I'm going to go ahead and snug them down. Get and torque down the wheel to 100 foot-pounds. Now that we have our wheel installed, we're going to go ahead and fill up our reservoir here with your choice of washer fluid. You can fill it right up to the top of the neck there. Now that you're filled up, go ahead and close that lid. Make sure it's snapped on, and you're all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.